So I'm here now with Lydia Amir, and I will start with a very broad question. I don't know if it's possible for you to answer it, but we'll see. So the question is, what is a philosophical consultation?
Well, a philosophical consultation is a meeting between a philosopher, a person that has studied philosophy. At the beginning, we decided internationally that the person would have at least an MA in philosophy, if not a PhD. This was agreed on all of us. It began 30 years ago. And so a person who has philosophical knowledge, philosophical education, and a person who wants to hire the services of that philosopher for different purposes. So this is what the consultation is about. You're being hired by someone, a client that comes to see you and defines the need, the interest, the problem, the question, and you decide as a philosopher, as a trained philosopher, if you want, if you can engage with that in a way that will bring something to the client. If you think that you cannot as a philosopher, you should say so. It has to be as a philosopher. I don't want to be hired as Lydia to do whatever the person wants for 1 hour. So I disappointed many people who wanted, I don't know, just to read to me things that they wrote during the week or to share some thoughts about extraterrestrials or some other things. And I had at the beginning of my career a lot of problems about that. To what should I agree, to what not? Where are the limits? You know, maybe I'm too strict. Maybe I should be more tolerant. Maybe I should let people hire me for 1 hour. And what do I care if it's Lydia or the professor of philosophy? But if you ask what the philosophical consultation is, the way we defined it, because many other professions can say that this is philosophical, but for me, philosophical means that the person that is being hired has philosophic background, an MA or a PhD at least, the way we agreed internationally.
So then, besides talking about extraterrestrials or things like that, what kind of client would you not take on? What kind of client would you tell, well, sorry, I will not work with you. Maybe you better see someone else.
Listen, I tried with many clients to send them to see different people. They wanted to talk about sexuality. They wanted to talk about other things. People who were under drugs at the beginning. I was terrified. About sexuality, I tried to send away to sexologists. They didn't want. They explained to me that this is a philosophical question. So I had to educate myself, you know. I knew about philosophy of sex and love. I was teaching that, but I put the question on the agenda of philosophical practitioners and said, listen, this is part of the good life. It's not possible that we are not trained to talk about that, that I was so embarrassed by the question or the situation. As I said, drugs at the beginning, I was terrified. When a person comes and is seeing a psychiatrist at the same time. Sometimes the psychiatrist sent the person to me. I like to talk to the psychiatrist if the person agrees, not in order to have information, just to know that it's all right. Yes, if there is some kind of collaboration so that it will be explicit. I am more and more open to all kinds of clients. I would say that as long as the person can have a rational conversation, that person is invited to have a conversation with me as a philosopher.
Okay, so that would be the criteria, the possibility to think and speak in a rational way about their issues.
Yes, yes. Because at the beginning I was more strict, but then I was told by the clients, they were offended. They said, if I'm the only person who thinks that it's helpful for me. So I understood that maybe I consider it not helpful, but they consider it helpful. So it was not humble of me to decide this yes, this no, this you can benefit, this you cannot. You know, I developed a system in philosophy, and I thought that this is not for people who have big tragedies. But then the lady that lost a child heard me on the radio and called me and wanted to see me and said, you helped me a lot in the radio. And so I was humbled by that. We actually do not know who can benefit and who cannot. So on principle, let's say, we should begin and accept people if we're not feeling threatened. Yes, if we are not in danger, accept and see if we can have a level of rational discussion. Many persons have been to psychologists and insist that they want to talk with the philosopher. Many men, more than women, they think it's rational. So it's okay to talk about someone with reason. So I've been humbled, as I said, by the clients, and I reject less and I accept more, even if the outcome or the discussion do not go in the way that I thought at the beginning they would.
So what would you say is the main difference then between philosophical consultation and say psychotherapy or some treatment?
Listen, I'm not a psychologist. I cannot speak for psychologists. In philosophic consultations, we use philosophy. So what do I mean by we use? For me and your teachers, so you can understand me, we are private tutors of philosophy. Like in Oxford, we are hired privately by people or couples or family or a group. And as good teachers, we want to teach philosophy or to bring philosophy in a way that answers the needs, the interests, and the capacities of the people who come. That's the main thing. It seems not important, very humble, very mild, but it's a great thing because not everybody can spend 10 years studying philosophy in the academy and hoping that someday the professor would touch about something that is of interest or relevant or pertinent to the person. So here you can come and hire a philosopher and talk, God exists or not, any kind of ethical, existential, philosophic problem is by definition something that philosophers are educated to address and address well. Any kind of bringing, teaching, imparting philosophy in a way that it's impartial, that it's balanced. Teachers of philosophy know how to do without mixing their own opinions. This is important as well. The practitioner needs to be a very well educated in philosophy person, I think, because there is a wealth of information about how to live for 2,500 years in the West and much more in the East. And unless you know that and are ready to impart it to anyone who would be interested, then maybe you are not doing philosophy the best service that you can do, this wonderful discipline. I'm giving you the main examples that psychologists cannot address because I know very well, although I'm not a psychotherapist, what is in the studies of psychologists, ethical problems of how to live, more narrow problem of ethics between me and the other person, and values of life, the general injustice, anything related to the human condition. If you want, philosophical practice is a support group for the human condition. So it's not necessarily for a specific person that have a specific problem. It's for us, all human beings who live in problems, being part of the human condition. And being aware through a meeting with the philosopher that that problem, that question has been asked thousands of years ago, that everybody struggles with that there are different answers to the question. It is very liberating for the person. It's like, welcome to the human condition.
So do you see a major difference between academic philosophy and philosophical practice?
Not for me, but it depends on the way you teach in the academy. If you teach each philosopher the way the philosophers wrote and thought first out of always existential and personal problems, and you share these problems with the students, and then you show them not only the theory, but how to practice it, which all philosophers wanted to be understood in a way that you can put this theory into practice. Understanding in philosophy does not differentiate between theory and practice. This is a false problem. If you don't understand the practice of it, did you understand Stoicism or Spinozism or anything else? Or any ethical theory? You did not understand. As a professor, if you don't understand how to live according to Kant or to Mill or to Aristotle, can you teach that? I don't think you can do it being at ease. So anyway, it's all about practicing. Understanding is a form of digestion. So if you put philosophy at bay and that not let it change you, transform you, how can you explain it to other people? You need to digest completely the thing, so that you can present it in a way that other people would understand. And so it depends on the teacher to make philosophy alive also in the academy and to be at the service of the students for the personal problems or questions that arise out of the encounter with the material. It will always arise.
Well, I've heard many professors who would disagree with you, who would say that what philosophical practitioners are doing is not real philosophy. And on the contrary, I've heard many practitioners saying that what they do in academia, it's something completely different from what we are doing. So it's interesting to hear you say that it's basically the same thing.
Yes, it is the same thing. And it depends what philosophical practitioners are doing. If they're not doing philosophy, it's not the same thing. My criterion is very simple. Let any professor of philosophy walk into my practice while I practice. They would say, my God, this is philosophy. So this is my criterion, that it will always be philosophy, good philosophy, interesting philosophy, easily digestible maybe philosophy, friendly philosophy, but philosophy. It's a question of integrity. Now, at the beginning of this new area of philosophical practice, some associations, like the Dutch Association, wanted very much that it would be a new profession, very different from the academia. This is the way they defined it. But I was always in the academia, even before. I teach from the age of 24. So other association saw maybe philosophical practice as the continuation of academic philosophy. I spent my academic career, intellectually speaking, when I was talking about philosophical practice, in defining that theoretical field called philosophical practice. It's first theory, it's meta-philosophy. It's about what philosophy is. So I published Taking Philosophy Seriously, The Thinking Philosopher Responsibility, that explains that actually in philosophy, theory and practice cannot be differentiated. Proof, every time that it has been differentiated, philosophers were put to laughter by other philosophers, by society, by the student, etc. So it cannot be differentiated. It's an aberration, when you just talk about theory, because this is a discipline that actually addresses life. So what kind of theory about life it is if you cannot practice it? It's demolished immediately.
So would you call philosophical counseling, would you call it a form of therapy?
First, I don't understand what kind of counseling there is. What can we counsel? On which basis? It's true that philosophers in the past, they were advisors to kings, to something like that. They were asked a few things and they had a lot of knowledge outside of philosophy. But what a philosopher would counsel, saying, as a philosopher, I would counsel you to what? You can counsel maybe as a personal person and saying, according to my set of values, I can do that. As a philosopher, you know all the set of values, all the answers to if life is unjust or not just. What can you counsel? So there's no counseling. For me, it's called philosophical practice. It's thinking about how can you take philosophy seriously, more seriously into your life, as a professor, as a student, as a lay person. So there's no counseling. There is a problem that you come, there is how can I say, every day is life. And you come and you tell me a story. You tell me why you wanted to see me. And how to, of this story, we formulate together. I've chosen, instead of problems, questions. We formulate one question. I asked you to formulate a question, better a question that is not a yes or no, because it's too narrow. A question that has several answers. And then that you want to spend a few meetings with me talking about. And that's related somehow to what bothers you or interests you. And if you formulate that question, and the question is philosophical, is something that I can address as a philosopher, we can have these few meetings. If you ask me what is there in my childhood that makes me so sensitive to this or that, I cannot answer as a philosopher. I wouldn't venture there. As Lydia may have some ideas, but this is absolutely uninteresting and unethical to be hired as Lydia and their own pseudo-psychology. I try not to do that. So I won't engage in that. It needs to be a question that is philosophic enough that I can bring my knowledge there and we can encounter each other around that question. So if we agree on the question, I can explain the presupposition of the question shortly. And then I can say in advance how long it would take. Because for me, it's very important that the process would be transparent. It's the question of ethics. People do not know what philosophy is, even less what philosophical practice is. So you don't want a person to be cooped up in a room with you, for doesn't know how long when you would go out and what's the outcome, what's going on. So I want something that will be transparent, that will be clear what's going on at each step, that the person would be free to go out, to come back if they want or not. Yes? So for me, there's a story, there is one question with several answers. And after we formulate the answers, we address critically each answer, and we go to a new question, which is related or unrelated to the former one. And when there is a new question, you can go away, come back in 10 years, never come back. Maybe you want to go away before, but we know we had this question and two answers. That's very good. We know maybe we have one question, four answers, and discussion of two answers that we have. So it's very clear, and the person gets the tools as we talk. My goal is to make the other person even more autonomous.
So what is the outcome you can expect from such a meeting or such a process with you?
Well, the outcome is absolutely amazing because we are all confused. Even what I'm saying now, that seems so simple, it's for people enlightenment. That out of what happened, there is like a bubble that opens, like animation, like comics. Yes, you just fought with a friend about money. You are very deceived. You don't know what's going on. You don't think it's a friend. You understand? The question, what is friendship, never occurred to me. Do you know many people who talk about what's friendship? Do you know many people who know what a friend is? They use the term all the time, friend. But this is, for example, a classical case. We use the term, but we never clarify. Not with a friend, not to ourselves. So you call with a friend about money. I can see an option to talk about what's the value of money in life. But I can see also an option of talking about what is friendship. Yes, of course, I know that there are various views of what friendship is. The client sometimes does not believe that, doesn't know, never went into that. So in asking the question, and in receiving answers. First, the answer that the person has, what is friendship for you? When it is the Socratic moment, yes, when they articulate that answer, many people are so grateful. They never knew what they thought about friendship. They want to live at that spot. That's enough. They earned paradise. That's enough. But then I say, wait. What's the view of friendship of your friend with whom you quarrel? Okay, so this is even more challenging. Sometimes they don't want to do it. But when they do it, you know what happens. All these talks about respect, about understanding of the other, all this is resolved differently when you can articulate in a rational way a view of friendship of another person, the otherness, the difference, the intellectual virtues, everything is there through that work. Then the person wants to go and you say, no, now give me a third answer about what's not. So what does it do? This confusion that we have in thinking clarifies not only our thoughts, but our emotions and our behavior. And this is something that you cannot do with anyone except a philosopher. That it's actually the cleaning up from top to bottom. And it has deep consequences. So you may understand how it helps. It has benefits that I never promise. I don't see it as a therapy, but I know firsthand that philosophy is deeply transformative. This is a handbook of transformative philosophy that I'm finishing editing now for Springer. Deeply transformative, is capable of making big changes in one's life out of this clarification.
So finally, I want to ask you, what do you think is the ethical responsibility of the philosopher towards the person who comes to see her?
Yes, the ethical responsibility of any philosopher, I think, is to bring philosophy to as many people as possible. First, not only waiting that people come and see him, but to let people know that there is a discipline called philosophy, and there is a philosopher in town, and be approachable and be friendly and diagnose questions and problems and show how philosophy can help, can enrich there. This is the responsibility of the philosopher. People don't know what philosophy is. They especially don't know if philosophy would be helpful or not, would contribute or not. This is the philosopher's responsibility. Now, when there is a client coming, for me, the responsibility is to be very clear about what's going on, transparent. There's the method, then you can go astray, you can maybe not follow, you can digress about one of the answers or one of the questions, but that's okay. The person knows where we are. This is very important, that it's transparent, and that they know what's going on and they can leave at any moment. And the second point, people tend to lean on the philosopher, tell me what to do, counsel me. It's very important not to do that, but to give tools for the person to be able to think better by themselves and act better by themselves. With the philosopher's help, with philosophy's help, not the philosopher's help, philosophy's help, but to know that this source of wisdom and this wealth is available for them regardless of the person. I am sitting there. The books are there, the capacity to talk with friends. That's more important than anything. It's not me. This tendency since Socrates to confuse the message with the messenger. It's very important not to be a guru, not to let people fall in love with you, not to think that you are going to solve anything, but to let the meeting between philosophy and the person occur, to facilitate this meeting, to be a good teacher of philosophy, that's all.
Thank you so much, Lydia Amir.